woken up tired, even though you just got out of bed. I'm not talking about physical fatigue. I'm talking about something heavier. A tiredness that doesn't originate in your body, but spreads through your soul. The alarm rings, the coffee brews automatically, and you put on the mask of someone ready for the day. But under that mask, there's something you can't ignore, a silent scream, exhaustion from a life that never stops. You look at your phone, notifications, messages, reminders, everything urgent, everything important. And somewhere in all of this, you push to the very bottom of the priority list. But maybe no one has told you this yet. You're not lazy, you're overwhelmed. You're not ineffective, you're forced to function in a world that knows no limits. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about. In the past, control had a face, it wore a uniform. It had a voice that shouted, sit straight, work faster, don't stand out. Foucault called it the disciplinary society, a world of prohibitions, orders, and compulsion. But that world is gone. Now something else rules, something more sophisticated, something far more dangerous. No one forbids you anything. On the contrary, you're told you can do everything. You have potential, you have time. All you have to do is wake up earlier, work smarter, be more disciplined. Sounds like freedom. It's an illusion, because if everything depends on you, then every failure becomes entirely your fault. Welcome to the society of self-exploitation. You no longer have a boss above your head. You have one inside. You don't have to report to anyone. You issue the report to yourself. Did I achieve something today? Did I earn rest? Did I get closer to the version of myself that I sell online? Your life has become a project. You've become a brand. And the problem isn't that something forces you to act. The problem is that you've come to believe you can't stop. You read to be more productive. You exercise to work more efficiently. You sleep to function better tomorrow. Rest has become an investment. It's no longer a goal in itself. We're told we can do anything, but no one tells us that we don't have to. We're surrounded by violence, dressed in optimism. It doesn't shout, it motivates. It doesn't restrict, it inspires. It doesn't imprison, it offers opportunities. These are no longer chains, they are colorful slogans. Believe in yourself. Don't give up. Every day is a new chance. But what if today you don't have the strength for a new chance? What if your body says stop, but your mind, programmed by the world, says more? This is not individual depression. It's a civilizational symptom. We are not weak. We are overstimulated. We are not lazy. We are trapped in a loop from which there seems to be no escape, because it looks like we built it ourselves. But maybe the time has come to break it. Ask yourself, when was the last time you allowed yourself to do absolutely nothing? Not consume, not react, not post, just be. Even rest you've turned into a task. You meditate because you should. You walk because it's healthy. You close your eyes to reset the system. But you never allow yourself to truly disappear. But maybe it's precisely in disappearance, in aimlessness, in boredom, that something might save you. Contemplation, a word that's disappeared from the modern human's vocabulary. We've replaced it with productivity, effectiveness, growth. But contemplation is not laziness. It's the courage to be without needing to justify that being. It's silence that isn't emptiness, but space for truth. It's calm that isn't stagnation, but the natural rhythm of existence. Meanwhile, in the name of progress, we've starved ourselves, sensually and spiritually. We can't look at a tree without wondering what could be written about it. We can't breathe without measuring the quality of that breath. But maybe in that stopping, without a goal, without purpose, your salvation awaits. You're not a machine. You're not an app. You're not a personal brand or a manufactured version of yourself. You're a human being. And you have the right to be tired. You have the right not to know. You have the right to fall silent. You don't need to fix yourself. You don't need to grow endlessly. Sometimes all you need is to sit and allow yourself to exist. You're not alone. And if all of this resonates deep within you, maybe it's no accident. Maybe right now something in you is beginning to awaken. In a world that constantly demands your presence online, at work, in relationships, solitude has become suspicious. If you don't respond, you're disengaged. If you don't post, you're invisible. If you don't share yourself, it's as if you don't exist. But are we really here just to be constantly seen? Solitude is not emptiness. It's freedom. It's the only space where you can hear your own thoughts before they're filtered through the needs of others. And yet, how many times have you drowned out solitude with sound? You turned on a podcast, an episode, music, a notification, not to learn something, but just to not hear yourself. And maybe it's precisely in the silence you avoid that the true answer resides. Not the kind you can search on Google, the kind that grows in silence, like roots underground. Maybe you've been led to believe that freedom means the ability to do everything. But philosophers from Socrates to Simone Weil said something different. Freedom begins where the courage not to do something appears, not answering the message, not picking up the phone, not meeting expectations. In a society of excess, this no becomes the greatest act of rebellion. Because today you are judged not by what you love but by how available you are. Sometimes the bravest gesture in your life won't be success, but withdrawal, rejecting the race. Not because you're afraid, but because you know who you are without it. When was the last time you did something just because it was beautiful? Not useful, not productive, not monetized, just beautiful. Art, philosophy, contemplation are not tools, they are doors. To what? To a world that doesn't need a purpose to be real. But today, everything must be profitable, even the soul. Want to read? Then write a review. Meditate, make it an online course. Go for a walk, count your steps. We kill the spirit with an excess of purpose, and yet the deepest things come when you expect nothing. You don't have to be better. You don't have to change. You don't have to work on yourself every day. Is that heresy in the age of coaching? Perhaps, but maybe that's exactly why it must be said aloud. Your worth does not depend on your current state. You are not merely the result of your self-discipline. Sometimes the greatest healing comes not when you fix something, but when you stop judging yourself. And you sit in silence, long enough to no longer feel the need to change anything. This is not stagnation. It is acceptance of being. And sometimes that's enough. Maybe now is the time to stop living on autopilot. Time to stop living like a project. Time to reclaim something primal, the ritual of existence. You don't have to quit everything. You don't have to move to the mountains or disconnect from the world. You just need to pause, truly pause, even for a few minutes each day. You close your eyes, breath becomes your home, silence your ally. And suddenly you discover, you don't have to do anything. Because what matters most is already within you. It just needed space. You're not alone in this exhaustion. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're a human being trying to survive in a world that has forgotten what balance, freedom, and presence truly are. Maybe today is a good moment to remember. In Zen tradition they say, do nothing, and let everything emerge from that nothing. To the Western mind this sounds like heresy. What do you mean, do nothing? But you have to plan, manage, optimize. And yet in Eastern culture something has been understood for centuries that we're only now beginning to vaguely sense, that the greatest strength comes from a place that does not seek to control. What is natural, the growth of a tree, the flow of a river, the beating of a heart, requires no effort. It works because it is. And your life can work the same way, not through force but through presence. Taoist philosophers speak of wu wei, action without action. It's not laziness. It's living in harmony with reality, without violence toward yourself. And maybe that's exactly what you're missing. Not another productivity strategy, but the permission to not do everything by force. On the other hand, Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus, repeated one sentence: things themselves don't upset us, it's our opinions about them. What exhausts you most doesn't always come from the outside. It's you constantly thinking, I haven't done enough, I should be further along, I'm not ready yet. But the Stoics teach, you have control only over your choices and your attitude. Not over the pace of the world, not over the expectations of others, not over the fact that sometimes you stumble. Their wisdom is an antidote to today's obsession with success. Because true peace doesn't come from achievements. It comes from separating your value from the outcome. In the Christian tradition, mystics also understood that truth does not come through noise. John of the Cross, Meister Eckhart, Teresa of Avila, all spoke of the dark night of the soul, a moment when all external mechanisms fail, when prayer is no longer a dialogue, when success stops bringing relief, when you're left alone with yourself and suddenly you start to hear something more. Not a slogan, not a personal development mantra, but the voice of existence, the kind that doesn't need to be different to be good. It's the experience of silence as divine space, not spectacular, not shiny, but real. And perhaps the deepest thing you can ever experience. Philosophy is not just theory, it's a way of looking at life. Or maybe the highest form of philosophy today is tenderness, not towards others, towards yourself. Can you speak to yourself gently, not like a manager, like a human being? Can you look at your day, when you did nothing, and say that was enough? Can you be yourself not as a task, but as a fact? Maybe today you don't need another book about productivity, but one decision to stop forcing yourself. Because if you don't show yourself tenderness, the world won't do it for you. You're not guilty for being tired. You're not strange for longing for simplicity. You're not lonely for feeling lost in a world full of possibilities. Maybe your body and soul are trying to tell you something very simple. Enough. You don't have to live faster. You don't have to be someone else. You don't have to prove your worth. Sometimes the greatest courage is to live slowly, to breathe deeper, to be less available, to feel more, plan less. And to that is something radical in today's times, to be enough here and now. If you've come this far, it means something inside you is already awakening. Maybe it's not a revolution yet, maybe just a whisper. But sometimes a whole life changes from a whisper. You don't have to run, you don't have to act immediately. Just stay in this silence and see what appears. And if this resonates, share it, not for likes, for people like you. Because maybe, in this quiet revolution you are not alone. Stop for a moment, close your eye, take a breath and ask yourself one question. What do I really want? Not what others expect from me, not what is appropriate, not what fits my resume. Only, what do my body, mind and soul whisper to me when everything around is silent? And answer, honestly, without a plan, without ambition, without strategy. Because maybe, your true want is much simpler than you think. Not success, not popularity, not perfection. Maybe it's just peace, silence, a sense of meaning, someone who listens, a moment without pressure, and maybe only then, everything else gains meaning. Have you noticed you constantly live in the future? Plan for tomorrow, goal for the end of the month, vision of yourself in 5 years. But when you reach that tomorrow, you look further again. It's no accident. It's a time trap created by modern consciousness. We have lost the ability to be here and now, and yet only this exists. You can't breathe tomorrow. You can't love yesterday. You can only be, in this second, unpredictable, quiet. Buddhist philosophers say, the future is only a fantasy in the present, and the past, a memory that no longer breathes. If you understand this, time stops being the master. It begins to be the background. And you are no longer a victim of the clock. You are a presence that doesn't need tomorrow to be whole. I know it's a difficult topic, but if we want to talk about life truly, we must also look at its end. Because it's the awareness of death that gives existence meaning, not as fear, but as a mirror. If you knew you had 12 months left, what would you stop doing immediately? Would you still check stats, results, notifications, or would you go for a walk, call your mother, fall silent at sunset, hug someone without a word? Stoic philosophy said it clearly, live every day as if it were your last, not out of despair, but with clarity. Because only when death becomes part of life, life stops being an escape. It begins to be a celebration. Today everything can be measured. Number of steps, minutes of sleep, breath efficiency, number of followers. But there is one thing that resists any metric. Your soul. It can't be measured in Excel. It can't be sped up. It can't be proven. And yet, it suffers when you ignore it. The soul speaks in whispers. Not through messages, but through longing. Through strange sadness you can't name. Through the inner resistance to the rhythm of the world. Through that desire that there must be something more. And there is, but you won't find it in the calendar. You'll find it where nothing is required. In art, in nature, in prayer, in tears, in another person, in you. Imagine that everything that defines you today suddenly disappears. You no longer have a job. You no longer have a phone. You no longer have a name on Google. You don't have a plan for the future. Only you remain without titles, without goals, without an audience. Who are you? If you feel unease in this vision, that's good, because it means you are touching the truth. What remains after subtracting everything is your true self, not the one that achieves something, but the one that simply is. And it is this being that is worth nurturing, not as a duty, but as the deepest act of freedom. You are not a machine. You are not a project. You are not a tool for success. You are a being who has the right to stop, has the right not to know, has the right not to answer, has the right simply to be. And if in this silence you give yourself, you feel something, even a shadow of peace, it means you are beginning to come back to yourself. Do you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be? Before someone put a calendar, a watch, a schedule in your hand? Before the words must, should, achieve built a wall around your soul? You were a child. You were wonder. You were yourself, without the need to prove anything. You ran not to lose weight, but because the rain was falling on your face. You drew not to sell, but because colors were calling you. You cried because you felt so. You laughed because it was so. You didn't calculate. You didn't rush. You didn't compare yourself to anyone. It wasn't productive, but it was real. Where is that child now? It hasn't died. It's sleeping, waiting for you to let it speak again, feel, be. And maybe it is the one who has the answers for you that you seek in books and charts. When we meet someone new, we ask, what do you do? Not, who are you? And so we begin to believe that our identity, our function, programmer, designer, doctor, creator, investor, but those are only roles, masks, structures you enter to function, but that are not you. Who are you when you're not acting, when you're not writing email, when you're not earning, when no one is watching? The silence in that answer can be terrifying, but it is precisely that silence that is the gateway to truth, because only in it can you meet what is unchanging, your essence, your presence, yourself, which existed before you learned to say who you are. We are not always beaten, insulted, controlled. Sometimes violence has the face of normality. An email at 11:46 p.m. with a note, just a quick thing. A meeting where no one asks how do you feel, scrolling aimlessly until your eyes sting. A smile that doesn't come from within but from obligation. It doesn't look like aggression, but it is the slow burning out of the soul. Day by day, piece by piece, the world detaches you from who you are, turns your life into a task, your time into currency, your voice into format. But that violence becomes possible only when you forget that you have a choice. Maybe the greatest act of courage today is not action, but stopping, not clicking, not writing, not answering, not following another must. Maybe resistance does not mean var. Maybe resistance is a gentle decision that your life is more than the sum of tasks. It's not resignation, it's a reminder that you are free, that you can sleep without guilt, read without notes, walk without purpose, love, not from a plan but from presence, because every second you don't give to the system is freedom regained. Maybe what you feel seems lonely, because everyone around seems to cope, smile, achieve, run. But the truth is different. More and more people feel the same way, the same rebellion, the same exhaustion, but no one speaks first. Because in this system silence is seen as weakness, so we remain silent together, each in their own room, each with their own tear, each with their own longing for a life that is not a function. Maybe this film, this narrative is not just words, maybe it's the echo of another consciousness awakening in all of us. And maybe at this moment, you are no longer alone. I don't want to tell you what to do. I won't give you 5 steps to happiness. I just want you to hear that you have the right to inner freedom. You have the right to feel. You have the right to rest. You have the right to be imperfect. You have the right not to want more. And if any of this touched you today, it means something inside you already knows that another way of living is possible. Not spectacular, not viral, but real. Don't click away immediately. Just stay in this moment, in yourself. Here your philosophy begins, not from a book, from you.